We're running short, but hey, we've got one more great guest I want to bring on, and I'm so glad that she has been patient with us. That's Dr. Shanda Macias, who you're last but not least. So thank you for being with us with the National Holistic Healing Center.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am so grateful for the opportunity. As a Washingtonian, it's just so imperative that I definitely have been with the Informer forever. And so this is really exciting.
Doctor, thank you. And you're with a medical, well, the National Holistic Healing Center is a medical marijuana dispensary in DC in DuPont Circle. We know there's probably one other that we know of, actually here on Martin Luther King Avenue. And you said earlier, again before we went live, you said sometimes people want you in the room, and sometimes they don't.
It is
So
so true. It's so true.
explain that and explain why we're in this middle space right now as it relates to the whole issue of marijuana.
Definitely. So, the stigma that's associated with cannabis is been with us for decades. The war on drugs has definitely impacted the Black community, our community, and therefore people don't want to touch it. They're afraid of what that looks like, not only from a healthcare benefit, but also for our entrepreneurship. And so my narrative is to dispel the myth, which as a scientist, a two-time Howard University graduate that is very conscious of our plight, that this is the time for us to enter. I studied cancer for over 10 years, and when I can tell you medical cannabis has a true benefit for healthcare, it does. And the reasons why we've been impacted as a Black community is simply political. And the war on drugs proved that sentiment, where a patient became a prisoner. And we have a $40 billion prison system to support that. So now it's time to take our power back and empower our community, not only from a healthcare perspective, but also from an economic perspective.
The legalization of cannabis is so lopsided because you'll go to some cities or states where they're actually not just medical dispensaries, but just dispensaries, people where people can just go in and purchase. And then in the District of Columbia, we're a little bit more reserved here, and the rules are beginning to change, but not much. And so you know it sounds like we are going to make that shift, but it's a slow shift. And what do you think it's going to take to get to the place where you think the nation should be, or at least the Black community should be, with the acceptance of cannabis as a real health benefit? What is it going to take?
You know what? I will tell you that our shift for medical cannabis use and even social equity to enter the cannabis industry is shipping, but it's not going fast enough. And it's not that we don't want it completely. It's just that, like you said, different communities are open to supporting our narrative, and some of them aren't. We have a wonderful mayor in Washington, D.C. that supports our industry, and adult use has always been on her forefront. And she has been muted by the federal government in the sense of the Andy Harris rider that prevents us using any local DC monies towards any type of cannabis programs that are for adult use. So her hands are tied, just like with us trying to emancipate and become our own state. We just don't have the power right now, and we're fighting the good fight. And, when I think about Eleanor Holmes Norton and how she's been behind vocalizing what we need, not only in the cannabis movement, but in the DC movement, period, we are not giving up. But when we get our power, we will win the fight and we will be represented equitably. But it's just about getting the power behind us to support our narrative, which is our community.
So, and from a entrepreneurial or business standpoint, I know that there may be some challenges. I think that uh, Black business owners have faced, or maybe not. Maybe you can tell me where we are in this whole ecosystem. Are we there? Are we having greater challenges than others? Does it depend on the city or the state where you're located? What's that fight been like?
That fight has been continuous. If I look at the nation as a whole, African Americans only own 4% of any medical or adult use cannabis facility or operation. 4%. And we already know this is a $1 billion business, not 1 billion, but it's treading really fast to over 20 billion, and only 4% in the nation of African Americans are represented. So it is definitely a way just to see we're being held back. And unless we have social equity programs that give us a way to enter into the space, our voices will continue to be muted, and we won't have an opportunity economically to benefit from, truthfully, industry that we built.
And so, again, it's hard, I guess, to get a lobby group, together, like you said, because of the stigma. But is there sort of an advocacy group, or is that your organization that really seeks to advocate for equity in the industry?
We fight on the federal level, on the state level every day, and we do it through various voices. What's important though is that when I can say that as a two-time Howard University graduate and focus on cancer research, is that there is a healthcare benefit, and giving a cancer patient, a multiple sclerosis patient, an epilepsy patient access to health care, it is a civil right. And so, who are we to decide that if they have any type of alternate medicine has failed them, they should have the right to be able to access medical cannabis. And so when we fight for healthcare, but not only that, that will also lessen the burden from those that have been impacted by cannabis criminal justice reform. It is time that a patient, a Black man who has any type of possession of cannabis in their records, that is expunged, and that they're able to get a clean slate because we know the healthcare benefits. There's no such thing as adult use cannabis. Cannabis is cannabis, whether it's used in the medical markets or in adult use, or by the person that's at home in the privacy of their domicile that chooses to use it because it makes them feel better for their ailment and condition. We're here just to open access, safe access for the patient, and to lessen the burden and give us an economic opportunity to benefit from what our community has went through. Not I mean For decades we've been under attack.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think it opens some doors. At least I think on the uh, uh, um, news side, the editorial side of this, I think I'm seeing more, particularly of our Black publications, that are beginning to weigh in on this whole storyline. And of course, there's the business aspect of that as well, because it also helps to spark other types of businesses. Everything has a spinoff, right? So I'm glad you were able to join us today to give us your perspective on this issue. We know there are other perspectives, and so at some point we might have to bring them on as well. But we're glad that you were here to share this with us and to open our eyes to something that we may not have really thought about in the way that you presented us. So I wanted to thank you so much for being with us,
Thank you. It's my
Dr.
pleasure.
Macias. Yeah, anything that I missed? Anything you want to add before we close?
I would just say that the mayor has allowed for the week of April 15th through the 24th to have all cannabis products tax free. So that is a benefit we're really grateful for the city of DC to support. And all cannabis cards that are issued in the next 2 years will have a 2-year privilege, and they're waiving fees for that as well. As you know, that right now, anyone 65 years and older can self-certify. That means if they have an ailment and condition and they self-certify that they don't have to go directly to their physician for a medical recommendation. And there's an emergency bill coming up that we think we can get self-certification for ages 21 and up. So now we can have great public access to safe and tested medical cannabis.
Wonderful. I was going to let you go, but now you opened up another door, and I know we're running out of time. But I have to ask this question because when you say self-certify, what are you certifying?
You're certifying you have an ailment and condition, which in Washington, D.C. can be any ailment or condition, and that you feel that medical cannabis can help with your symptoms or your condition. And that's what you're certifying. And that allows you to enter our premises and register for a medical cannabis card that DC government have waived the fees, and that you can enter into a legal regulated market so that the patient and the product are both tested and safe to use.
So there's no criteria on what you're certifying. I mean, I could say that, I have an ingrown toenail. Uh, can I get certified for that?
You can get certified if you have different ailments, like if that intone growth does inflict pain on you. Yes. If you have insomnia regarding that, yes. If you can certify that for any of your ailments or conditions, that's self-certification. And
And
so that's
nobody
why
has.
we want.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, we just want patients to have that access if they feel like medical cannabis can improve their quality of life.
Well, to me, it sounds like we're definitely on the road to legalization here. So now that we've gotten to that point, but it's interesting. It's interesting, and so that is big news right there for a
Huge.
lot of folks who didn't know that. That is huge, and so I'm sure after this show, it will probably get a lot of shares. And I hope you get back to DC in time to open your doors and and get all your new customers.
Well, thank you so much. And it's just been a privilege to be here. Like I said, I have admired you for so many years. So this is like my fangirl moment. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you. All right, Dr. Macias, thank you so much with us and sharing. And we make you back because we might have more that we want to share about this topic as it evolves. So thanks
It
for
would be my
sharing.
blessing.
Okie doke. All right. Have a good one.